Hello and welcome to Supporting Positive Behavior in Continuous Learning Environments, Part 3. Thank you so much for being with us and listening to the first two. If you haven't listened to the first two, I encourage you to go back and listen to the first two parts of this webinar put out by OSPI. Again, my name is Lee Collyer, and I work here at OSPI in the Special Education Division, and I'm available by email. It's the best way to get a hold of me if you want to continue this conversation. We're going to talk today about managing escalating behavior, and as things kind of get worse, get harder for kids who are having some significant blowouts and things like that. One, I would say, first of all, stay safe. If you're struggling to try to gauge in academics over and over again and it's not working, I would encourage you to try something that is safe and you can keep your child occupied in a conductive and healthy way. I don't want to put any pressure on any family to engage in traditional academics if it's not functional and working for your family. So it's not. This is just to support some kids who may have some minor outbursts or even just regular outbursts over specific things, and really engage in some thinking around that and how we can best support you guys. So let's talk about crisis. We all start out at our personal best. Right? Wake up in the morning. Some people need a cup of coffee. My wife needs a cup of coffee to get here, but eventually we start low and we may get there eventually, right? We can get up to our personal best with that cup of coffee, but usually we stay here unless something bad happens, right? You get escalated and then you get de-escalated, and you can do that because you're an adult, right? And you have skills, right? You don't always, every time you get upset doesn't lead to a crisis. If it does, that's very concerning in general. But no, most adults can de-escalate themselves through a number of techniques we've developed over time. Some people, it's simple as drinking a glass of water or taking a deep breath. But other people may take more time. For kids, they just haven't developed these skills. So a lot of times these escalations lead to a crisis, lead to sort of some aggressive or violent behavior that can be really damaging to people and relationships. So you start in personal best and you have a crisis, and eventually we have a recovery. But what happens is not every escalation has to be a crisis. So we have these intervention points, and you know them, and you know your kid better than anybody. You can see their escalation patterns. You know when they're getting upset. Intervene before that. That's the main recommendation, right? We have stimulus. They start to get upset, or they start to escalate. They start pacing the room, taking deep breaths, their gaze changes, their body language changes. These are all times to remove the item that is causing the escalation, to provide some choices in those moments, to not lead this to a crisis. Pushing, talking is not going to be helpful. We're going to remove things. We're going to remove stimulus. We're going to remove the stressors. And we're going to add in positive, add in slow and small, remove loud, active. There are all ways we can prevent getting up to that every time, right? And the thing to remember is that as we get more upset, as we go up that line, all the way up that line, we lose our cognitive abilities. That means that we lose our ability to use reason and logic to solve problems. So if you don't have reason and logic to solve problems, what do you have? We have emotions. With kids, when they lose their ability to use reason and logic, they're left with their emotions, and their big emotions are fear and frustration. And you might think it's anger, but anger is a secondary emotion. It's fear and frustration, our two big externalizing emotions. Depression is really different, and that's a different training. We're talking about externalizing emotions today, externalizing behaviors. So the more upset they get, the less cognitive function they have, the more their behaviors are driven by fear and frustration. Means the higher they get, the more that's happening, the more intense, the less opportunities we have, right? So we have to really intervene quick, and how we intervene is really, really important, right? So let's talk about how we intervene. Your kids have stress, constant, right? It's there. There's stuff going on with their siblings, with their peers, with their work, with all sorts of things, right? Our big one right now is coronavirus, COVID-19. It's causing a lot of stress in people. Stress causes emotions, right? Those are our big Emotions from kids were fear and frustration. Emotions drive behavior. Right? Behaviors comes from somewhere. We show a whole graph. There's these antecedents and these setting events and things that it happens for a reason. I used to read incident reports for a school, and one of my favorite incident reports I ever read was, for no apparent reason, chair flew across the room. I promise you there was a reason for that chair. I promise you it came out of somewhere. It was not for no apparent reason. So kids are expressed, they're experiencing emotions, they're getting behavior, and what happens is they get a response from an adult. That behavior gets a response. We come in, that's our point. All three of these other things, the stress, the emotions, and the behavior, all these things, we have nothing to do with them. They're totally aside from us. We can only respond to them. All we can do is respond. And what happens a lot in these moments of crisis, these moments when kids get upset, is that we become another stress. We are another problem. We yell at them. We shame them. We make them feel bad. We escalate it when really our job is to get them out of the conflict cycle, do something different, engage with them a different way. But our own stuff gets in the way, right? Our own frustration, our own trauma, our own emotions. We're now in a co-cycle with them. We're experiencing coronavirus and we're experiencing emotions from it. And our behavior is often a response to our kids' behavior. So we're all caught in this cycle together, and our job is to get out of it. Wow. This is from a teacher. I think it's important to think about the world we're in right now. I've come to the frightening conclusion that I am a decisive element in the classroom. Remember, your home's the classroom now. My personal approach creates the climate. As a teacher, I possess a tremendous amount of power to make a child's life miserable or joyous. I can be a tool of torture or an instrument of inspiration. I can humiliate and humor, hurt and heal. In all situations, it is my response that decides whether a crisis is escalated or de-escalated, a child humanized or dehumanized. And something to pause and think about. What are some reasons you get caught in the conflict cycle? This conflict cycle. What are reasons that you respond in a way that causes more stress? Think about it for a second. I have plenty of triggers, of things my kids do that make me crazy. Being interrupted, I must say, is a huge one right now. They know what I'm doing. They see me working, but their small brains prioritize their needs over mine all the time. That's what kids do. They do that. And for some reason, it bothers me every time. But I know that. So I need to know that when I'm working and I need to prepare for interruption, I'm not going to prepare a 7-year-old. I don't have enough time for that. Maybe you do. Maybe that's your work, is teaching your kid not to interrupt you. But I just plan on getting interrupted. And I think that's where we come from. But if I know it's going to happen over and over again, I can't just get mad. Getting mad is not going to stop the interruption. It would have stopped already if I had. What's your plan to maintain self-control? Right. Know your own signs. Know your own stuff. Don't push yourself too hard. Do things every day that make you feel good. Self-care, that word sort of sticks with me, and people ask about it all the time. It feels like a rote thing. Take care of yourself. If you're going to be teaching in the home and engaging academics, you have to have some time for you, somewhere in there. Because kids all day and kids all night isn't going to cut it. You got to have a carve out for yourself to do something to take care of yourself. Oh, okay. Adult behaviors students respond to. This is some research from England in the 70s, pretty large study. We know that students respond to a common pleasant voice, offering to help, and positive feedback. You can define calm. Calm can be cultural. Don't let people outside your house tell you what is calm and what isn't. You know in your home what's calm and what kids respond to. Offering to help, positive feedback. We talked about this throughout these webinars. Unliked, accusing, blaming, shouting, and no opportunity to speak. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that, right? This is what science says is effective for kids. So if we're going to engage in learning in our homes, this is what we need to head toward. These liked behaviors, they're going to get results. So for students who've experienced trauma and are prone to experience anything as novel, including rules and protective interventions as punishments, They tend to regard teachers and therapists and anyone who establishes safety as perpetrators. This applies to caregivers as well. So even the act of setting up rules and changing things on them can be seen as an aggressive act. I really like this. I use this with my own kids sometimes, just to do some thinking. But not all of our kids are their chronological age across the spectrum in every aspect of their life, right? So I have a kid she's 8 years old. Chronologically, she's 8 years old. Emotionally, she's 5 or 6. She really struggles with anxiety, and she really struggles with big emotions, and she'll sort of, I call it like a turtle shell. She'll just sort of pull herself in and really has a tough time dealing with anything like that. So she's really looking at deals with emotions at a kindergarten level, to the point where we have to sit on the outside of movie theaters because she runs out. Socially, I'd say she's also closer to 6, 5 or 6. She does not have many close friends, and she really struggles with peer relationships, not in an aggressive way, but just struggles to make friends in the school environment. And cognitively, she's 9 or 10. She's doing advanced work in mathematics in ELA currently, and doing great. But the assumption, and assumptions that people in my own family have made, is that she's so smart. How come she can't do these other things? Well, she can't do these other things, and we know that about her. So we try to make the world work for her, rather than try and shove something we know is emotionally 5 and socially 6 into a world that's demanding her to be cognitively 9 or 10 sometimes. Her sister is chronologically 7. Emotionally, she's 12. Socially, she's 16. Cognitively, she's probably 6. There's nothing we did. This is just how they came out. This is just what we're playing with, right? I have one kid off the charts, socially emotional, who's, I would say, gifted at making friends and being around people, but could care less about how to write her letters the right way or her math facts. One's 7, one's 8 chronologically, but they're all across the board developmentally. And I encourage you to think about your kids in a similar way. What can they do? Where do they struggle? Where are their strengths? Not to just let their chronologic or cognitive age dictate where they're at, what they need. So we talked earlier about the conflict cycle, and then how to engage, how to best engage with kids. And one of it's developmental thinking and how we say things, but it's where we're going for, right? How do you get results? How do you get kids to engage? And research, again, tells us it's really clear. We all fall somewhere on this grid, right? Some of us fall in permissive and kind. Oh, whatever, it's okay. Do whatever you want. It's fine with me. And some of us are not at our best. And I have to say, when I'm not at my best, I'm kind of angry or detached and just, who cares? Leave me alone. Get me out of this. Permissive and hostile. Like, whatever. Just do whatever you want. Just stop interrupting me. Right? Some of us are firm and hostile, where, no, you're going to do what I say, no matter what I say. That works in parenting sometimes. It works for most kids in parenting, actually. But for the kids it doesn't work for, it really doesn't work. And now that we're engaging in academics, and we're not just engaging in a home environment, we need to really rethink things. And we know the best way to get results in a learning environment is kind and firm. We're going to command respect. We're going to be positive, encouraging, and trustworthy. We're going to be authoritative, not authoritarian. We're going to model the behavior that we want to see. We know this works. And again, you may have a firm and hostile home where you're demanding respect. If you're struggling to get kids to engage academically with academics in your home, my guess is I would start to look there. Because what works in parenting doesn't always work in teaching. Setting limits. Discuss with the kids. Predict how they might respond. Talk about why things matter. Plan for events that will cause distress or conflict. Ask them what they need to comply. Offer 2 choices. Find out what they won't do. The fewer rules, the better. Compliance is not necessarily improvement. Important thing to remember. Just because they're listening to you and following directions means very little. Are they actually internalizing that and manifesting it themselves? These kids want change. They want to be in charge. They need containment, though. They don't care about pleasing you. They need to learn about empathy and gratitude. Compliance is seen as loss of control. Many times, loss of control is vulnerability. they don't trust, and they feel that hurt they can cause it. This is for really, really high need kids. This is not for all kids. This is just for students who've been impacted by trauma. These are sort of symptoms of what could be going on with some kids in your home. Again, not all or most, but for kids who are experiencing some really, really high need behaviors, this is really important. Emotional salience is important for two reasons: the possible reward and the possible threat. Recognizing and preparing to approach rewards and seeking versus getting rewards, anticipation. Recognizing and preparing to escape threats. Threat, anxiety, fear, pain. And then there's a whole social context for the whole thing and what's actually going on with them. When should you intervene? When you have the patience. When there's a learning moment, when there's safety concerns you actually have to intervene with, when you can prevent a bigger problem, and when you know how to help. Ask for help if you don't know how to help. This is a sort of intervention guide for, I've just included this in something you could take if you wanted to just look at how, if some people are more visual learners, you wanted to look at the problem solving we talked about earlier and how to put that in into a visual form, something you could actually practice with the kid or with someone else. But our goal with all of this is to shift from using reactive and proactive behavior management strategies to using proactive positive supports. From focusing on changing their behavior to changing our behavior to meet their behavior. That's a big one. A lot of this is just focusing on changing our behavior. Using physical intervention as part of a comprehensive plan to change a student's behavior, to only using physical intervention in emergency situations to address immediate safety concerns with no expectations of long-term change of student behavior, right? Physical intervention might be necessary if things are getting very aggressive or violent, but it's not going to work long-term. It is something that you might need to use in the short term, but if it's something we're regularly doing, we need to find another way to teach the behavior we want to see. Some final takeaways. Take a break and walk away. Just, if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel that little internal control in your body just sort of flipping out, take a break, walk away, go do something else. Create a distraction-free environment. Really, often kids trying to do academic work in their bedrooms or or in front of television sets is not going to be really helpful. You're trying to find something, a work environment that works, where they're not going to be distracted by other things in that environment. Prompt from the beginning, constantly, if that's needed. Have rules for your home, for homeschool, and post them. Catch yourself breaking the rules. Oh, I just did that. Follow them. Catch yourself. Start slow and practice skills of learning, transitions and engagement prior to attempting academics. Right? Just really, really slow. Hey, we're just going to get up and we're going to go over and do this. We're going to get up, we're going to go outside, and we're all going to do this really simple activity. It's okay if you're just doing structured activities. It is okay if you are not engaged in academics right now or at all until school begins. That's fine. Do what works for your family. Constantly provide choices. Modeling, embedding, and honoring functional communication. Sandwich more difficult material with easier, more preferred material. So we're going to do something hard. Make sure you have it before you're doing something that they really like and is easy, and then end it. Be like, give them something to look forward to. Hey, remember, if you finish this, you get to do this other thing you like. That's been the end of part 3. Thank you so much for listening and enjoying this, hopefully. And if you have any feedback or questions or thoughts, feel free to email me at leecollyer@k12.wa.us.